Due to a terrible catastrophe, humanity began to evolve back into animals. A devastated man tries to call his wife. His wife is forever frozen on the couch. It was because of him that she said goodbye to life. The madman couldn't accept her for who she was. What drove the man insane now threatens everyone else on the planet, but they are not aware of it yet. The next morning, a girl named Liv rushes around the room, angrily packing her things. Her boyfriend, named Hemming, wakes up from the noise. Liv informs him that her mother urgently needs her at home.
Wait, you're packing up and leaving?
I left a note.
Hemming is shocked by his lover's sudden actions. Liv barely holds back tears and seems to want to say something unpleasant to him. But right now, Hemming needs her support. He works as a psychotherapist and learned yesterday that one of his clients harmed himself. It's about the man on the roof.
I thought that I got him out of that place. He was this guy. He wears a suit to work. He comes home. He beats his wife.
Hemming blames himself for not helping the unstable client in time, but he doesn't realize that soon everyone will start doing wild things, and he won't be able to save them all. Liv is frustrated that Hemming cares more about his clients than her. Furious, she storms out of the apartment and can no longer hold back her emotions. After Liv's departure, Hemming checks the messages he ignored from his clients yesterday. One of the callers is a madman from the roof named Aaron. He was Hemming's first client. Now he is the first person Hemming blames himself for losing. 100 days ago, everything was a way better. Hemming worked with Aaron online from his room and praised his client for the progress. However, even back then, the patient's behavior was not entirely stable. He had many complaints about his wife and missed his tranquilizers.
It's her, you understand? Her indifference is killing me.
Hemming gently insists that Aaron needs to take his medication and talk to his wife. While he is in a balanced state, the patient calms down and ends the call. Immediately, Hemming's friend contacts him and sends a new viral video that has already been viewed by billions of people. In the video, an eccentric blogger invites Russian anthropologist Alexander Belov to visit him.
Знаете, зачем он здесь? Чтобы спасти наши жизни.
The scientist talks about the process of involution, when evolution starts going in reverse and society undergoes degradation. The frontal lobes of the modern human brain do not develop, making people more aggressive. The only way to fight involution is through the display of reason. However, the scientist observes no positive dynamics yet and believes that soon people will behave like wild beasts. What do you think? Is a similar future awaiting us? Write in the comments. Hemming doesn't take this video seriously and continues his work. He has no idea that the anthropologist's predictions will come true too soon. Currently, Hemming's neighbor brings him food. He hasn't been outside for 4 weeks, as if he is afraid of people. Do you ever have moments when you don't leave your house for weeks? Hemming receives a call from a client named Kane. He stopped taking his tranquilizers and snapped at someone on the street today.
Took out, killed.
Hemming is shocked by this news. He doesn't understand what motivates such aggression from his client. As soon as Kane stopped taking his pills, he immediately started behaving like a psychopath. In the end, Kane loses it and hangs up. Frightened, Hemming wants to report the recorded conversation with the client to the police, but he changes his mind because he feels responsible for Kane's mental health. In the evening, Hemming calls Liv. She hasn't reached her parents' house yet and isn't particularly happy to hear from him.
Stop. I'm worried about you.
An irritated Liv quickly ends the conversation. Hemming regrets that their relationship has become just like everyone else's. Couples constantly argue and deep down, they feel terribly lonely. 80 days ago, Liv was just a regular client of Hemming's, attending his online consultations. One day, Liv started flirting with the psychotherapist and telling him what she saw in his dreams. On that day, she dreamt that a girl harmed Hemming with a rope. Liv watched from the sidelines and couldn't do anything to help. Suddenly, the call is interrupted, but it doesn't stop her, and she invites Hemming on a date. He is happy. Currently, psychopath Kane is submitting more and more to madness. Someone comes to visit him. The man is terrified, but it turns out to be his friend named Ian. He brings Kane some magical powder. After taking it, Kane becomes joyful, but even more irrational. Suddenly, the police knock on Kane's door. The psychopath suspects that Hemming betrayed him to the authorities, and he quietly escapes from the apartment with Ian. By morning, Liv arrives at her parents' house. It's a luxurious mansion that is currently empty. She feels like she is not welcome there. Liv's mother and her young lover have many adult toys. Liv examines them and then takes an inflatable woman and floats with her in the pool. At that moment, Liv's mother and the young stepfather return.
Hurry up. It's dinner time.
The mother forces Liv to change into a dress and sit at the table. During dinner, the woman announces that she wants to leave with her new husband and likely sell the house. Liv is furious and reminds her that this is her father's house, who passed away. She strongly opposes her fickle mother making decisions about the property, but her mother wants to strip Liv of the inheritance and send her back to a psychiatric facility. Liv has a nervous breakdown and injures her mother's lover. Later that same day, Hemming tries to call Liv, but without success. Worried, he recalls the day he first met his beloved. 59 days ago, Hemming was taking a bath before their first date and was extremely nervous. He hadn't been out of the house for over 2 years. Hemming gets in a taxi and is wary of the driver. The driver is indeed irritable and shouts that the plant is overcrowded.
10 billion people! I mean, it just blows your fucking mind.
The driver believes that humanity is doomed. A global catastrophe is not far off, necessary for the Earth to get rid of the useless and spoiled burden. Hemming reluctantly agrees with the taxi driver to avoid angering him even more. The driver doesn't take Hemming all the way to his destination, so he has to walk the rest of the way. He eventually arrives at the address Liv gave him, but the building looks like an abandoned psychiatric hospital. Hemming cautiously walks down the corridor and finally finds Liv. She smiles at him, takes his hand, and lures him out for a night walk. Currently, Hemming can't believe that it's all in the past and tries to locate Liv. He even contacts the rescue service.
My girlfriend, she's not picking up her phone.
The dispatcher irritably explains that they can't help because the search for a person begins only after 5 days of their disappearance. Moreover, there are no available rescuers right now, as the streets have become unsettled and law enforcement needs to contain the unrest. Hemming loses his temper and yells at the dispatcher, but she hangs up. He is left alone with his fears, shouting hysterically. He drifts into his thoughts and dreams most of all about seeing Liv again. 24 days ago, she was right there, in bed with Hemming. He was telling her about his dream, in which Liv saw signs of loneliness.
But we have us. That means the dream was wrong.
The couple starts playfully, but suddenly Hemming grips Liv's hands tightly. Liv gets scared and barely manages to break free. Hemming himself doesn't understand what came over him. Liv asks him not to use force on her ever again. Currently, Hemming finds out the address of Liv's childhood home through illegal means and writes it down in his notebook. He quickly gathers his things, checks the train schedule, and cautiously ventures out onto the street, trying to hitch a ride to the train station. However, people have become too mistrustful and no longer want to help each other. One man even threatens Hemming with a gun and orders him to leave. Fearful, Hemming gets off the subway. An unknown man lies against the wall, pleading for help. Hemming decides to show compassion and approaches the distressed man, who behaves strangely.
Please don't leave me here. You're all heartless beasts.
Hemming regains consciousness on the subway floor with a head wound. The villain takes his bag, money, and shoes, then flees. Dejected, Hemming continues his journey barefoot. Later on, Kane confronts someone in a vacant lot to take their jacket. Ian arrives there with a backpack he stole from someone. Kane finds Hemming's passport in the backpack and becomes ecstatic. It turns out that Ian stole the backpack from the scoundrel who robbed Hemming. From the notebook, the buddies learn which train Hemming will take and where he's headed, and they set off to seek revenge. Unsuspecting Hemming reaches the train station and manages to jump onto the train at the last moment. Kane and Ian barely miss the train. Kane loses control and curses on the empty platform. On the train, Hemming dozes off and contemplates the state of people. They are always in a half-asleep, semi-real state. It's hard to call it a regular life. Suddenly, Hemming wakes up abruptly at the final station, comes to his senses on the platform, and sets out to find Liv's house. Meanwhile, Kane and Ian attack a woman and steal her car. The victim desperately screams on the roadside, but can't stop the criminals. The gang buddies set off to find Hemming, unaware that there's a hidden passenger in the car, and doubts whether pursuing the therapist is a good idea. After all, there's no guarantee that Hemming is the one who reported Kane to the police.
I'm on the hunt for blood right now, buddy, so it's either you or him!
Threatening Yan with retribution, Kane quickly silences him. Meanwhile, barefooted Hemming walks along the empty road towards Liv's house in the evening. No one agrees to give him a ride. He reminisces about how he comforted Liv, when she had a nightmare 11 days ago. But even in that moment, each of them were lonely inside. Currently, Hemming witnesses a gang of skinheads harassing the girl. Feeling too weak to help her, he runs away. At that moment, Kane and Ian continue driving in the car and feel a peculiar smell. Kane turns around and finally notices their fellow passenger. It's just a little girl, apparently the daughter of the woman from whom the villain stole the car. Ian tries to chat playfully with her, while Kane becomes furious and struggles to control the vehicle. Hemming arrives at the village where Liv's house is located. He knocks on the first available door to ask for directions.
Do you know where the Uster family lives?
Die sind hintern Wald gegangen.
The old lady seems sweet and reasonable, but for some reason, she keeps a wild girl tethered inside her home. It appears that everything in the world is going mad. Kane and Ian's car overturns. Kane quickly gets out of it, and Ian tries to take care of the little girl. However, he realizes that she won't survive, so he ends her suffering. Then Ian extricates himself from the car and listens to Kane's next outburst. They will continue the rest of the way on foot. Meanwhile, Hemming reaches Liv's house. It's dark and empty. He walks through all the rooms hoping to find his beloved. Instead, he finds lifeless bodies of Liv's stepfather and mother in the dining room. Overwhelmed with horror, Hemming loses consciousness. In his dreams, he encounters Liv, who caresses him at first, but then begins to torment him. Due to all of this, Hemming starts losing his human appearance in reality. In the morning, he greedily eats with his hands when Kane and Ian arrive at Liv's house. Kane sniffs like a wild beast, trying to find Hemming. Trembling, Hemming hides, feeling like prey. Silently, Hemming sneaks into the pantry and hides there. Kane also enters the dining room but can't tolerate the unpleasant smell of the deceased people and leaves. He takes Ian with him, who is dressed in adult toys. The men make incoherent sounds as if they forgot how to speak. Hemming emerges from hiding and heads into the nearest forest. Animal instincts awaken within him, leading him to a clearing where a feral Liv is having breakfast. The former lovers slowly sniff each other like animals. In the depths of this consciousness, Hemming recalls a moment when they were human and happy together.
You think it's a miracle?
Which part exactly?
Us.
Recalling human emotions, Hemming tries to take care of his beloved in a human way, but then they are noticed by Kane, who runs towards them. The lovers attempt to hide, but Kane attacks Hemming, and Ian grabs Liv, intending to harm her. Liv bites him, causing him to weaken. Meanwhile, Kane nearly overpowers Hemming, but the latter finds a stone nearby and, with a feral aggression, eliminates the aggressor. Upon hearing Hemming's terrifying battle cry, Yan releases Liv and flees. However, the villain manages to harm her before escaping. Hemming tries to revive Liv, but it's all in vain. With tears in his eyes, he takes Liv in his arms and carries her to a secluded meadow. Hemming lies down beside her and never gets up again. That's how they remain forever together amidst nature and feral people. And how would you behave in the company of savages? Write your opinion in the comments below. And here is the best comment from the previous one. See you in the next videos.